was a young man with dreams of adventure and a desire to live life on his own terms. However, his journey took a tragic turn that would ultimately lead to his untimely demise. Christopher McCandless was born on February 12, 1968, in El Segundo, California. He grew up in a middle-class family and received a privileged education. His father was Walter McCandless, a NASA scientist and entrepreneur who developed advanced radar systems, and his mother was Wilhelmina Johnson, who worked with Walter on various business ventures involving his radar systems. McCandless had all the facilities he needed and had a well-established life. Although in social life, McCandless's parents were idealized figures with their success, Chris thought otherwise. To him, his parents were just hypocritical middle-class figures full of hypocrisy. Chris was disillusioned with the materialistic society he observed around him and developed a strong contempt for consumerism and the conventional way of life. This dissatisfaction grew after he discovered the writings of authors such as Henry David, Thoreau, and Jack London, who romanticized the idea of living in harmony with nature. In May 1990, Chris McCandless began his adventure after finishing his studies at Emory University as the top graduate. At that time, he had received an offer to continue his study at Harvard Law School and was given a new car as a gift from his parents. But McCandless refused. He abandoned his conventional life in favor of wandering North America with the ultimate goal of reaching and living in the Alaskan wilderness. His passion was driven by his desire to seek a deeper meaning to life. He donated his savings, left behind his possessions, and adopted the alias Alexander Supertramp to symbolize his desire for freedom and independence. For 2 years, Chris traveled to different states of the United States, meeting different people and working odd jobs to support himself. On one occasion, Chris met the married couple Jane Burres and Rainey, who lived nomadically. The couple loved Chris and treated him like their own son. Their love for traveling contrasted sharply with the McCandless family's frequent arguments. He began to realize what family really meant, but he had to keep his desire to live in the wild. One night, Chris leaves without telling Jan Burres and Rainey because he knows they will be sad to see him go. Chris found the good and the hardships along the way and documented his experiences in a journal. He was mesmerized by the natural beauty he encountered during his travels, such as towering mountains, beautiful rivers, dense forests, and starry night sky. McCandless enjoyed the independence and solitude found in the outdoors. He felt connected to nature and found tranquility in the silence he could only feel in such remote places. During his adventures, Chris appreciates simple wonders like the rising sun, wildflowers, or birds chirping. He finds beauty in things that are often overlooked by many. Long story short, in April 1992, Chris finally headed to his ultimate destination, the Alaskan wilderness. He carried only the bare necessities. His survival knowledge was relatively minimal. Jim Gallion, one of the locals who gave him a ride, tried to convince the naive youngster to reconsider his wanderings, as the Alaskan forest is notoriously unforgiving. But the young traveler remained stubborn and continued his journey. He hiked deep into the rugged and unforgiving terrain of Denali National Park. On the way, Chris found a temporary home he called the Magic Bus, a 142 Fairbanks bus, a relic of the International Harvester of the 1940s. He still had 10 pounds of rice, a .22 AR Remington semi-automatic rifle, a guidebook on local plants, and some camping equipment. McCandless was confident that he could forage for food from plants and hunt animals. He continued to write down descriptions of his physical and spiritual progress in the wilderness. McCandless was completely at the mercy of nature, enduring the freezing cold and solitude of Alaska. However, Chris soon discovered that the Alaskan wilderness was not as easy as he had anticipated. He had difficulty finding enough food and surviving the extreme weather conditions. Over time, he became increasingly weak and malnourished. His body became emaciated. The Magic Bus was truly an eyewitness to Christopher McCandless's life journey. In his contemplation, he thought about stopping his adventure and returning home. After 16 weeks of surviving in that place, the extreme weather turned into a very beautiful spring. Chris was so excited to go home that he said goodbye to his Magic Bus. Unfortunately, all of McCandless's dreams were in vain when he saw that the previously frozen, impassable river had now melted and was flowing fast. All his dreams were gone. Occasionally, he tried to cross the river, but he was carried away by the current and finally gave up. He then returned to the magic bus feeling hungry and thirsty. He had no food left. All he had was a book about flora and fauna. In desperation, he ate a plant that he thought was edible, but unfortunately, he got poisoned by the plant. Christopher couldn't do much about it. The only thing he could do was to contemplate. His body became stiff and immobile. His legs were paralyzed and he could not walk. His hands chiseled a sentence on a piece of wood, while crying and reflecting on all the things he went through. His family, sister, and friends turned out to love him very much. He was too blind to see true happiness. Before he died, he wrote a very ironic sentence: "Happiness is only real when shared." He realized that the real life is the one where he is with the people he loves. In the end, Christopher died in a simple house in the middle of the forest. Ironic, yet heartbreaking.